Welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Nation podcast. Today, as always, we've got a real treat. Mr. Cody Askins is in the house. Cody is founder of 8% Nation Insurance Conference and owner and co-founder at Cody Askins LLC. Cody, welcome to the show.
What is up, gentlemen? Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to talk about the sexiest topic, Medicare.
Please put me to sleep. Hurry.
No, I'm kidding. We'll probably talk about that. You have a wealth of knowledge and experience in that industry, but also in marketing. Before we get to any of that really exciting stuff, Cody, tell us about your journey and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so I grew up in the business. My dad started in the business, insurance industry, April of 1990. I was born July of 90, 3 months later. So I'm, been in it my whole life.
Just a baby.
Yeah, it's it also, since it's Hustle Nation, I'll throw in a few stories here and there. I remember being 16 years old in going to working at a little grocery store called Apple Market in Rogersville, Missouri. I was working part-time, 4 to 10 on a Saturday. About 3 o'clock, I'm throwing up. I don't want to go to work. I go to my dad. I'm like, hey, I'm throwing up. I don't want to go to work today. And he said, it speaks to his hustle in a lot of different ways. He said, you do whatever you want to do, but you know what I would do. And so I went to work and threw up in the bathroom. Now I'm not saying that that's like the right thing to do. However, that's the example I grew up with, that, dude, no matter what, you need to try to show up. It's important. Then fast forward, I'm in college playing basketball. I joined the industry as an intern, cold calling of a phone book. And then I go to a recruiting meeting. I'm like, you know what? These people are making some money. I'm going to go full time in this. So I go to a recruiting meeting. There's about 10 of us in the room. The manager says, hey, 9 of you stand up, or everybody stand up. He said, take a look around. He had 9 people sit down. He left 1 person standing. And he said, what he said next, which is a big reason why we do what we do, is maybe one of you will make it. And in that moment, I'm like, man, I don't want to fail. I want to be the person, And so I go to my dad. I'm like, hey, I feel like I need a target or a goal. It's my first year. I'm 20 years old. I'm in college. I'm playing basketball, full-time student athlete. He says, you're my son. You will make 6 figures your first year. I'm like, who? Me? That's a big number, when you're 20. And so I said, you know what? Okay. Him saying that and believing in me raised my belief. So I actually wrote out, I will earn $100,000 my first year in the insurance business at 20 years old. I signed it, dated it, hung it up on the wall of my cubicle. And then every day I went out to make that a reality. I also would write it on my mirror. I would put it on a Post-it note by my speedometer. I would put it on my nightstand. I would write it down twice a day, every day. And then over the next 8 months, cold calling and cold door knocking to sell life insurance. I made 117 grand, fell in love with insurance, sold for years. And then the end of 2015, I started building a YouTube channel, putting out content, not knowing where it would lead. Now, long story short, we've got about 350,000 insurance agents around the world who watch our content on a weekly basis, multiple 7-figure companies, and an amazing team here in Springfield, Missouri that make me look really good and are way smarter than me.
That's a great Cliff Notes version.
Thanks.
So as you look at, you skipped over a lot of nuggets there, but so, I'm curious about even just the first step as a 20-year-old in college athlete, right? You had every reason in the world to say, I have enough. I'm doing enough, right? And what was that? What was that piece of you that got you to say, okay, but there's more here, and I want to take on this additional thing?
I don't know why, but I'm wired that there's always more. I believe I was created to do something really big, and I think also too my parent, not just from a faith standpoint, my parents. I had an amazing childhood. I'm very blessed. Was super fortunate. I realize that's not true for everyone. My wife and I want to start a foundation to help kids in the future, because that's not always the case for them. But for me, my parents believed in me. They challenged me. We're a very competitive family, but they also believed if I would say, hey, I want to be a professional basketball player, which I'm terrible compared to that, but they would be like, you know what? If you work hard, you can do it. They were never beating me down as a kid. They were always helping me dream, and seeing them go from have stuff happen in their life and happen to our family, and them go from no money. We're both working multiple jobs, living in a 700 square foot house, to making around 7 figures a year income as a family. I saw that progression from being born till later in life. And then when you see that, one or two things are going to happen. You're either going to be entitled and lazy and like every other decent, income family, maybe wealthy family across the U.S., I guess, and just like not do anything. Or you're going to be like, you know what? I want to do that. I want to create my own lane. I want an amazing life too. And I chose the latter.
Love it.
So that's interesting to me. You attribute directly and even indirectly a lot of your success to your parents. How do you take what you've experienced as a kid and apply that to your parenting now? And I'm curious too, because you're so aware of that and you attribute your success to it. How does that show up in leadership and in business?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I can tell you this, once we've been married 11 and a half years. Once we have kids, I will parent much different because of the way I was parented. You know what I mean? And two, from a leadership standpoint, with our team, I mean, here's an interesting story. I had a guy yesterday, sales guy. He's like, hey, I want to make $1 million a year. I'm like, dude, great. I'm like, what'd you make last month? He said, I'm making just over 10 grand a month every month here working with you. I'm like, that's awesome. That's great. We got a bunch of team members that's the case. Like, that's cool. I never said, well, dude, you're at 10. Why are we talking about 83 a month? Like, won't you get to 15 and 20? No. I'm just like, dude, I think anybody can eventually achieve anything. Can you do it here? I don't know. Nobody has, but it don't mean you couldn't, So I think it's a big part of it too, is like, if people are just so instantly pessimistic, instantly negative, they're instantly doubting people, like constantly in every area of life, and I have tried to not be that way. And I think that's why our brand's grown so much over the years, is I have tried to be the voice that's like, yeah, it's difficult. It's hard. 92% of insurance agents fail in their first 3 years. However, I believe, because I've seen it happen to a lot of people, that you can become a millionaire and have whatever type of life you want if you will put in the work and surround yourself with the right people.
It's interesting you say that, because, I've heard this, just people talk about it like, oh, well, I don't really try to encourage my kid to play college baseball or professional baseball because it's just not realistic. Like, it'll never happen, right? He's not that good, or she's not that this. And I've heard this too in the workplace. Other people talk like that. And they're like, no, I'm not negative. I'm just a realist. Oh, I'm not a pessimist. I'm just being realistic. And
yeah,
it's almost like, well, what if you flipped that? What if you talk to people as if, yeah, what if? Why not?
Correct.
Why not encourage them to go after it? What's the work? How could that be worse than telling them, no, don't waste your time, and then having them maybe live with regret when they're 75 years old?
Totally. Yeah. One of the people we coach right now in our academy, she has made low six figures, but her goal for this year, we started working together, I don't know, like 8 or 9 months ago. Her goal for this year was to make $500,000. Most people just said, you're barely making 100. What are you talking about? Like, that's unrealistic. That's extreme. That's insane. It's not going to happen. And maybe a few years from now, but not yet. Well, what's crazy is, just because she dreams of hitting, and what's crazy is, she's not on pace. I asked her a month ago, what are you going to hit this year? She's like, what do you mean? We already had this conversation. I'm going to hit $500,000, and because she still believes it, and because I'm not doubting it, and I'm like reinforcing it and challenging it and checking on it and asking, okay, let's just say she doesn't hit it. Let's just say she hits 410. Still an amazing year. But she probably doesn't hit 410 if she doesn't say she wants 500,
So Cody, how do you balance the kind of tying action to dreaming? Because, I think there's plenty of people that will sit around and dream and hope. Hope is probably even a better way of saying it. They hope to achieve this, they hope to achieve that, but so many people get stifled in action. And so, I think some of it is they never even act because, to your point, nobody believes in them. They're not even thinking that way. But then there's that next section of people where it's like, oh, what if? But then they sit around and they're just like, okay, but what are you doing? So how do you kind of connect that dreaming to action?
There's a lot of that too in the world. It's like, hey, what are you going to do? I'm going to make 6 figures my first year. Okay. How many hours are you going to work? Probably like 5 or 10 a week. I'm like, so you're new at something. You know what I mean? It'd be like you're riding a bike as a kid, and you're just going to go out and try to learn how to ride on your own once a month. You're never going to get good at riding a bike. You know what I mean? So it's crazy too, because like here's how I think about the philosophy, and I could complicate this, but I'll keep it really simple. I believe the best way to achieve a target, figure out what the target is, figure out the math and the numbers needed to hit the target, and then just go put in the work to make sure that you hit the math. But most people dream. That's cool. Target. Great. That's awesome. Most people don't have them. You're 900% more likely to achieve a target or a goal if you write it down every single day, right? Okay. I think having a target and writing it down is important. That's cool. That's why we have a whole goal tracker for insurance agents, right? On our website. Then, okay, I got to break down the math. Okay, cool. So maybe it's 100 grand. Great, right? Let's just say you give you 2 weeks off. We all go on vacation. You work 50 weeks. That's $2K a week. 5 business days. You just work, normal schedule, whatever. $400 a day. Okay, cool. Now, what do you make on average per sale? Where they're like, maybe $400. Okay, great, right? Now you need 5 sales a week to hit your 2K. What's your closing rate? It's about half. Okay, you need to ask 10 people to buy. Okay, great. How many people don't show up for appointments? A third. Okay, you need to set 15, run 10, sell 5. Well, then it's like, okay, what do I do to set 15? Well, then you start saying, well, you got to buy leads and invest in your business. You got to make dials. Shocker. You know what I mean? Like you got to get halfway decent at this thing, but you got to constantly get in front of 50 people a week. I wasn't special my first year, but I always saw 10 people every single week, no matter what. I remember having to go, I remember on a Friday not seeing my 10 people yet. And I went out and door knocked on about 160 doors on a Friday from about noon till about 10 o'clock at 9:45, 10 o'clock at night. And with a couple other individuals. Well, you better believe when I did that, I sat down and saw my 10, but it took putting in the effort to actually make that happen.
I think the key piece there is if you want outlier results, you got to put in outlier work. Right. Yeah. We've talked about this before, where when we look at stats about how we as humans lie to ourselves about what effort we're really putting in. Right. So, there's a study that was done that said, 60 hours a week, call that a badge of honor, call that, if you're working 60 plus hours a week, that means you're putting effort in, right? Like you're not just mailing it in. And whether that's the right time frame or not doesn't really matter. But
sure,
38% of the country says they work 60 plus hours a week.
They're full of
right, but 3.4% actually do.
Yeah.
Well, there it is, right there, right. So to your point of, you talk about it all the time, right? Like, how do you be in that top percentile? Well, it starts by putting in work. Now, that doesn't mean you're just putting in mindless work that has no aim and has no control, but usually that's not where people break down. It's just,
no,
I don't want to put the first step in.
Yes. Well, and two, it's like, there's a couple things I was thinking there. One is there's a lot of dumb work, like, in insurance, prospecting and selling someone, looking for, like, trying to set an appointment or physically talking to someone about buying insurance. That's the only 2 things that make you money: prospecting and selling. Checking your pending, checking your emails, looking on social, watching my videos, listening to your podcast, whatever. Like, those aren't actual revenue generating activities. However, it's cool to do some of those things. But if those people that say they're working 60 hours, which is insane. Okay. When you look at revenue generating activities, prospecting and selling, how many hours are you actually doing that? And I guarantee you, in most cases, it is 10, 15, 20 hours a week or less. So then you're saying you're working like it's I was in a Mutual Omaha office when I first started, and we had a guy. He was there more than anyone else, but he was always in his car smoking. He wasn't working. Like he put up the worst numbers of everybody, but he was there more than anyone. So we can brag about 60 hours, but it's cool. Dude, here's the truth. There's been a lot of years I work 60 hours a week. Easy. I'm not working 60 hours a week this year. Am I thinking about work 60 hours? Totally. Guilty. But am I actually like trying to get home in a decent hour and spend more time with my wife and put more, invest more time in my marriage this year? Yes. Am I trying to actually be a smart business owner, which is part of the hustle acronym, and actually delegate to my team and actually have an amazing team, amazing staff, and not try to do it all like a selfish, control freak, terrible entrepreneur, right? I've been guilty of that over the years. So I mean, people brag about working 60 hours, dude. I guarantee you, if you look at the top entrepreneurs in the country, if you brag to them about working 60, 70, 80 hours, they're going to just say you're a moron at this point because you don't know how to actually run a business correctly.
That makes me think of the book 10X is Easier Than 2X. I don't know if you've read that,
Yeah.
but in a nutshell, basically get rid of 80% because 80% of the shit you're doing is the stuff that is email, administrative, paperwork, social media, whatever. You said there's two things in your business that make you revenue. Why not hire an assistant or maybe someone on your team who can take all of that away from you? And just imagine if you put 80% of that effort into the 20%, you can 10x your business. I used to not believe that until I read the book, but oh my God, is that incredibly true? And I just think that is part of it. But I want to go back to something before you said with the Post-it notes and journaling and writing down. One of the things I refer to that as just daily affirmations. And that is something anyone and everyone can do, because I think when you think about that, it changes your thinking and your mindset. You say, I am capable of, or I will, or my goal is X. All of a sudden, if it changes your thinking, it changes your actions. And if it changes your actions, it changes your outcome. And to me, I feel like, at least that's how I refer to it as daily affirmations. I feel like everybody should be doing that.
Totally. And the whole goal of that, I could not agree with you more. The whole goal of doing that activity is simply trying to raise. It's a reminder. That's cool because everybody's ADHD and unfocused, and they think they're a great entrepreneur because they're doing 4,000 things a day and they can't ever finish one task. Right? That's cool. I need reminders because I struggle with focus. Right? I'll admit it. Also, I write those things down to raise my belief. Right? So one of the things that I want to do is end up creating a private equity fund to invest in companies and agencies in the insurance industry specifically, and go build a $1 billion portfolio with others investing in doing that. I don't know anything about it. I haven't started it yet, but that's one of the things that I'm always reminding myself about for the future, because I believe it is a big possibility as we keep building the brand to go. I love collaborating anyway, to go collaborate with others and do those things, right? And I believe we have an amazing network to like make sure agencies are ran correctly, right? So because of those things, it's a reminder, but also the more I write it, the more, because I used to write smaller numbers, but the more I write it, the more of it raises my belief that it could possibly happen. And so I love the daily affirmation piece.
I think the other thing that I've seen people hop over, right, is so they hear the things of where you are today, right? Well, like when you talk about like the balance you're trying to strike today, right? About not putting in the crazy hours and all that. And I feel like so many people want to skip over the step you went through already.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've seen this time and time again because, I talk a lot about a lot of the same things, right? About, how 80-20 and how you're focusing in daily reminders and setting up your plan and having a vision, and all that's really important. But, I feel like it's like what got you here won't get you there, sort of thing.
Correct.
And I feel like so many people, as they're going through their career, they want to skip over the first 10 years of grind, pain, anguish, and torture, right? Like the reason you're able to have that balance today is because you've skilled yourself up to a point where you're masterful at certain things that no one else is. And so it makes sense for you to 80-20, right? But I'm guessing when you were 20, that wasn't you. It was, you only had one skill, and it was grind.
Correct.
Right. I'm coming from the same cloth, right? So, to me, that I feel like, even we have it on, in our different companies where, I'll have people that they'll have me in a sales meeting. They're like, man, this just seems so natural. I'm like, it's not natural. It's not natural. I've just been on thousands of these.
Correct.
And so I already know what's happening. I've heard this conversation before, and I've screwed it up 1,000 times. So
Exactly.
I have that experience. It has nothing to do with like natural talent. It has everything to do with I just have had a lot more repetition, and I've learned from them. Right. I also was thoughtful about it, but I think, just kind of looking through your journey, I think that's where a lot of times when people, and even if people have listened to our podcast, they're like, oh, I'm making my day super efficient so that I can create this balance. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that, but it's like a lot of times they're ignoring the thing they really need to do. That, there is a time in life where a season in life or a season where you just got to grind.
100%. Yeah. It makes me think about some last year specifically. My personality, when things are not going well. So here's what I mean. We at one point, like we had Cody Askins LLC, then we started a marketing company with a business partner. We grew that company to where it was generating about $6 million a year, profiting almost $1 million a year, multiple years in a row. It was doing really well. Well, then we started to get to where it was not being ran correctly. I felt like the leadership and executive was going backwards. We weren't holding, our team accountable. Reputation, it was starting to hurt my reputation. We weren't doing a good job of fulfilling clients, business, etc. And then we started losing $100,000 a month. And over time, it just slowly got worse. And a business partner wanted to sell it. And I'm like, anybody that buys this is an idiot. Like, that's stupid. But all the staff were like, I feel like I'm on a sinking Titanic ship. I want to get off this thing, right? So everybody's leaving. And eventually, we just bought them out, right? And took it over and then put the companies together. I say all that to say because last year, because my personality, when things aren't going well, I'm like, screw it, I'll do it myself. When things aren't going well, I'll do it myself, but I'll just start doing everything. I'll get rid of everyone and I'll do it all myself, which is the absolute dumbest thing I could possibly do. But my personality thinks like that and thinks that's the answer when it's not. Well, last year, I definitely worked 60, 70, 80 hours a week for months. But ask me which year I'm happier. Ask which year the company is running more efficiently. Ask me which year I'm not trying to create new products and terrible ideas every 14 seconds. And I'm like mastering what we have and getting really freaking good at what we do and plugging amazing people into that process so that I can do what I want to do. I want to do this. I want to speak on stages. You know what I mean? Like I want to grow our company's brand and our reach. I don't want to do anything else. And the good news is, at this point, I don't have to. And it is an amazing feeling to be there. However, you guys mentioned it earlier before we got on, which is cool. Hustle has become like this negative connotation, right? And you guys are doing everything you can to change that, which is great because it's like the whole hustle culture is like, do it all, grind it out, be the solopreneur, entrepreneur, 14 side hustles, never make any real money, talk like you're grinding, but you're really watching Netflix. You know what I mean? Like all this stuff.
Thanks, Gary V.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they're really not, and it's like, if you want to become an actual entrepreneur is cool, but you want to become a business owner, you want to become a CEO, you want to eventually sell and exit and build and maybe take some freaking time off and, etc. You do have to go through that grind and hustle, but you don't want it to be that way forever.
Exactly.
No. Cody, I want to go back to the part in the story where you said people were jumping off the ship. We decided to buy out the partner. When you dove in, what was the root issue? What was the root cause of that business kind of heading in the opposite direction? And what did you do about it?
Yeah, we were really good. And a lot of it was just my fault about, I should have hired someone very different from me to like run that arm, that brand, separate LLC, but it was a part of like the ecosystem. We were great at promoting and selling, but fulfillment was a joke. It was terrible. And what I did was, like, I remember going into a meeting with 6 of our engineers who are building ads, right? Facebook, TikTok, Google, etc. And I go in this meeting, there's like six or seven of them in the room, like the week we bought it out. And I'm like, tell me what's happening, what's going on. Because I used to do all the ads and leads for all my companies 5, 6, 7 years ago. And so I knew their job and what they're doing and all that, even though maybe I'm not as good at it anymore. Fair. And I don't want to do it every day, but I still know that world really well. I said, what's been happening? They said, oh my gosh, dude, we are bringing on so many clients. We're so overwhelmed. We are understaffed like crazy. Oh my gosh. I'm just listening and I'm like, huh. I'm like, okay, so we have these clients are coming on board and these are leaving and you're getting about this many orders a week, but you guys think we're understaffed. Oh, okay, interesting. I said, I'm going to get involved in audit and maybe even do a little bit of work. And then we're going to re-meet in a week. And I think we're going to learn that we're not overstaffed, but we'll find out. And then a week later, I'm like, we don't need 4 or 5 of you anymore. We got to where we were just so bloated and added so many people. And everybody in the department was doing things their own way and totally differently. And so now what we've done better at, and I'm not naturally good at this as a business owner. I'm the world's worst at what I'm about to share, but I'm really trying to focus on it, is these are the things that we are good at. So we are only going to do these things so we can actually scale and actually get good. But my personality, again, has new ideas every 12 seconds and wants to reinvent the wheel in a new product constantly, every day. But guess what we do in our company now, Cody Askins LLC, we do an academy for $49 a month for insurance agents. We got probably around 400 active right now, 400 to 500. We do leads, kaboom leads, and we are really, really good at lead generation for insurance agents. We then have, and it's a stair step, we then have a mastermind for agency owners called Power Players. My favorite thing we do. The next thing we do is events, roadshows and conferences around the country. 1 roadshow a month and 1 big conference a year, right? The 12 total events. And then the 5th thing that we do is we will manage ads for agencies. That's the only things we do anymore. But before, we had like a whole menu of freaking products and we were terrible at doing them.
It's still a lot of stuff.
It is, yeah.
I have to ask you though. So you've recognized that all these ideas, and I resonate with this because this is me, and you have to temper your expectations and sometimes just hit the pause button for a couple of days. But how do you go about, and this may be a terrible way of saying it, but how do you go about like restraining yourself or putting the handcuffs on for a little while before you're like, yep, we're doing this new thing this week, and then next week it's going to be that, and the week after I got a new idea, and then let's cancel that one I had 3 weeks ago. I've been there. I've gotten way better at putting these things in boxes and coming back to them in 3 weeks, because if I'm still thinking about it in a month, it's maybe a halfway decent idea.
Yeah. Man, it's crazy the amount of things that change in our brain over 30 days. You know what I've done is we've got an executive team now that they have permission to be honest with me. And I speak last in meetings because I'm going to just take over meetings and talk anyway. And I want to hear from them. And we've got a VP of operations now that she is brutally honest with me. Like, here's an example. Okay. I am if you look at the 5 voices test, I'm a pioneer. She's a guardian. Well, guardians love to ask questions and they feel like a wet blanket to the entrepreneur. And they're just like, poo-pooing on everything and asking, a million questions. And they're just like unsure. Right. And they want to know a lot before they move forward, which is perfect because we've got the visionary and the integrator type role. Same thing for. I was
just going to ask you that.
Do what?
I was just going to literally ask you that.
Yes.
The EOS thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like our VP of branding, right? Dylan, he's been with me over 6 years. But before I name anything, do anything, title anything, design anything, I'm like, what do you think? Because his ideas are always better than mine at those specific things, right? And so I've surrounded myself with people that I need to take this to them, see what they actually think, and if they don't like it, then I shouldn't do it because before I've had a habit over the years of running like it's Cody Askins way or the highway, and I'm just gonna do whatever I want. But the problem is, dude, if I do that for too long, I will torch this place to the ground. I promise. I just will, and I know that about myself now.
That's the definition of who's not hows. You're hiring the who's to do the hows.
Exactly. So true.
Well, and the recognition of what are the things that are uniquely you, right? So there's this weird balance. I feel like this is for all leaders, whether you're an entrepreneur or just rising inside an organization of, how do you get that next level, right? Whether it's growing your business or whatever, you're doing something as an individual contributor really, really well. And as an entrepreneur, you're doing 12 things really, really well, which is why you've gone from 0 to something, right? Yeah. And it's hard because then each one of those 12 things you probably are good at, right? And you're probably better than some at, but to your point, you're not the best at. And even if maybe you could, if that was your only thing, anyone that's exclusively focused on one thing is going to be better than somebody that's focused on 10, right? So, I think, we've gone through this exercise of, just talking to people about, kind of what are the unique things to you? What are the unique skill sets that you have? And what are the things that then you like to do? Because there's plenty of people that are really good at something, but it's like, man, but I get exhausted anytime I do this versus maybe this is the thing I'm second best at, but man, I get juiced up about it. Okay, perfect. How do we get you to do 10 times that and just get rid of everything else? Like, how do you continue to that cycle? And I think
so good,
whether that's as an individual or someone on your team or things like that, to just kind of go through that filter. It isn't rocket science. And to your point, as a leader, it's always the best leaders don't have the answers. They ask the best questions. Right. And if you're stepping back and just asking the question, like, what is uniquely the best of you? Have you ever asked anyone around you, like, what they think your superpower is? And then what of those do you like the most? And guess what? I mean, I would say 8 out of 10 times when I've gone through this, that is the thing that creates the exponential value for them and for the organization.
Yes.
And it's just sitting there. It's just nobody's asked the question.
100%. I feel like my superpower is I'm a natural born promoter. I just am. Like I love it. It gets me excited. I love promoting stuff and doing stuff. But you're right too, because I've had so many people in the wrong seats on the bus over the years that did not enjoy it, and they held us back. So when we can find someone who like is actually really good and really enjoys doing this thing, it's amazing to put them in that seat and watch what happens. Like it is so cool to see. Like here's another example too. Like recently, also too though, like when we say this, some people may hear, well, I'm never gonna roll my sleeves up and take out the trash as a leader, and I'm only gonna, you know what I mean, just do whatever I want, right? There's a balance to this too, because like my one of my engineers, like he was building like this seating map for our event, and he was using Illustrator. I don't know how to use Illustrator, but he had to go pack for one of our roadshow events because he also like runs my production of my events and like travels with me a little. And he was like, I can't finish the seating map, but we were needing it done like pretty quick. And so I'm like, you know what? After hours, I'm like, I don't have any meetings. It's 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'll go jump in his desk and I called him like, hey, how do you do this? Okay. How do you do this? Okay. And then learned how to use Illustrator and built the seat map. But the team also likes that, I realize I shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff very much, and I don't enjoy it, but he loved that I was willing to like roll my sleeves up and help him finish a task that he was just overwhelmed and needed help with.
The critical thing there is the team liked it.
Yeah.
I think leaders so often overstep that, right? It's not even just about the thing, right? Like it's not like you thought, I'm going to do the seat map because I'm the only one that can do it. Right.
Correct.
I use an example. There's a very successful business leader not too far from here, and he is notorious to be in a suit and tie picking weeds. And look, if that's all he did all day long, he wouldn't be a very successful business leader, right? But his point is, he's in the retail business, and as he's walking up to any of his stores, he knows that what they look like matters, and he wants everyone to take pride in that. And so, I mean, he's there's pictures of him all over the place where he's walking, and look, he's not on his hands and knees doing it for 3 hours, but as he's walking up to the store, he's like, hey, I'm going to pick a couple handful of weeds because, hey, we got to up our game. And, to your point, it's the same thing as the seat map, right? You didn't need to do it, but it does show that you're willing to do it. You're willing to help out. You're still part of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can't be spending all your time at that, but that doesn't mean you can't help from time to time. And I think your point of balance, I think, is so critical, because it is, at the end of the day, and you kind of alluding to this, but I'll just, call it out. Really, your superpower is leading the team.
Maybe it's growing, because I felt like I was so bad at that for so many years. So maybe I'm finally growing.
I mean, I would say you can't have the success you have without it. Right. So that doesn't mean, we always can get better, but I mean, you're asking questions, you're a hyper growth organization. These are things that only happen if you're doing some of the right things. Right. And
I'm actually getting, I'm like getting emotional as you say that, which is wild, because that never happens on podcasts, but it's I think it's because how much my wife and I care about our team, and like how good they've been to us. And we've got most of the core operations team members have been here 3 to 6 years, and they're really, really, really freaking good at their job, and they've helped so much. And we take care of them, but we don't take care of them to the level we would like to eventually. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when you say that, I've always felt like, and I think entrepreneurs feel this too, man. Like, I've just felt like, I'm terrible at running a business. I'm horrible at leading people. I make all the wrong decisions. I'm atrocious at running finances, right? Like all those things. Yep. And so, and I am, but to hear that, like, you know what, maybe on this podcast, I'm recognizing that I'm actually finally learning how to lead people is like so humbling, because my arrogance has been in the way for so long, and it's held us back a lot.
I've heard a lot through coaching sports, which I have an extensive background in, is, your team, your people don't really care how much you know. They care how much you care. And that's when everything changes. But I was going to say exactly what Dustin said, but I'm going to add this to it is, hearing your story and hearing you talk about your business from how you got in working with your dad till now, there's two things that seem very obvious to me, which is your leadership deficiencies. When you pointed out when you started to where you are now, you've become highly invested in being a better leader. And I think a couple of things that go along with that. One, you care. If you care, you're going to show up differently. And it's not so much that people liked the things that you were doing, they appreciated it. And I think when your employees appreciate you, they will want to go to battle for you. And that's just so important. But also, the thing that I appreciate as a lifelong marketer is you have two options as a leader and as a business. You can either be invisible or you can be visible. And a lot of people don't see it. They're like, oh, we're on social media and we do this. Well, you're still mostly invisible if all you're doing is putting a couple posts out. But not only are you visible, you are hyper visible with podcasting and your 8% conference and your YouTube channel. I would say you've done a few things there that have 10x'd your brand and over the course of your very young career, and who knows what's next. But those are a couple of things that stand out to me.
Thank you. I appreciate the observation. That's cool. That's really cool to hear.
So Cody, what's next? You got, to your point, a person like you're not going to sit still, right? And you got a lot of really good things going. You're clearly in your scaling phase. If you look at the next, 3 to 5 years, what are the things that you really want to work on, whether that be yourself or business perspective?
Yeah.
What are the big things you're trying to tackle?
Yeah, a couple big things specifically. One is, I would say, the main focus right now, and we've got like specifically 3 clear goals that our team tracks on a weekly basis with a report, right, in our executive meeting, which I think is also important. I didn't used to do any of that. But I think the biggest thing I'm trying to tackle right now is we have this. I've always pushed back on leads and generating leads for insurance agents. I did it really well back in like 2017, 2018, 2019. I was generating like 20, 30,000 leads a month for like one company that was just had all their agents working with us. And, it scaled really quick. But I felt like it was beneath me. My ego got in the way a lot, and I'm like, I'm not the lead guy. Like, I didn't really want to be the lead guy. I was like, it's so much cooler to be the coaching guy and the speaking guy and the traveling. You know what I mean? The lead guy, vendors, no, not me. And so I gave it away to my business partner, and then we never did leads well there. And then once we merged and took the company back over, I took that part back over to a degree, but I was still like, we're never going to sell leads. We're just not going to do it. Mm-hmm. Well, finally, I started hearing horror stories again about how agents were just never happy with leads, or they were getting screwed, or like people were giving them age leads when they were buying new leads, or people were just asking for leads every 14 seconds. That we created a new brand. We rolled it out the end of February, called Kaboom Leads, and that is my initials, CA, and the word that I say the most, which is boom, together, just spelled the wrong way. And it's been a really fun, catchy brand that has grown. We have grown that specific part of our company to about to be conservative, about 300K a month in the last 100-ish days. And I am confident that we can scale that within the first year to 8 figures. But it was something that I pushed back on and I didn't want to do, and my arrogance got in the way of, and that we also never fully tried to be unbelievable at. We were just okay at it, and it was okay to be okay, which that's not a good mentality. Like that's kind of a sucky mentality as a business owner. And so I'm amazed at how far our team's come and how much we're putting emphasis on like a premium, consistent, quality, exclusive lead for insurance agents. And it has become the number one part of our brand in a very quick time frame.
Amazing.
It's really cool.
I love that.
So that's big. And then I want to keep scaling our events. I really believe we can get our conference to 10,000 agents over the next several years. I want to get to where we're doing these road shows for about 100 to 150 agents each event. I think we can grow that significantly bigger in each city. We're continuing to learn. Like right now we're averaging it's costing us about $119 to sell a ticket to like a local event. But I think we can keep getting that down under $100 and just keep improving there, even though it's pretty decent. I think there's still improvement there. And then overall, our mission is to help every insurance agent in the world. So we're just constantly looking for creative ways. Like we've done a few of our own style reality shows, an insurance agent contest where they won 121 grand in a week of prizes and cash for like this, elimination style contest. We also did like a Shark Tank show for insurance called Agency Investors. And so we're always trying to do we have videographers, Dylan and Keith, who are best friends. They've been doing video together since they were 9 years old. They're amazing. They're really good. They've won film awards in Missouri. Like they're really, really good. And so we're constantly looking to put out creative content that gets people's attention, brings value. Our industry is also just kind of boring and behind. And I feel like entertainment's really important in today's economy. And most people they think education is most important. But I don't care if you give me the best education in the world. If I'm bored in my mind, I'm going to stop listening. So we try to also be entertaining at the same frame.
Awesome. Cody, what else do you have going on in terms of events, products, services? What's new on your end?
Yeah, July 17th to the 20th. About the time this comes out, it'll be just a few days away. We have our annual conference, 8%. We're actually doing it in Springfield, Missouri this year. Really cool headline speaker lineup, industry experts speaking. It's a big party. I love it. And that's a ton of fun. And then one of the things that I'm going to put a ton of emphasis on as well over the next 12 months is we've always had this agency owner mastermind for years called Power Players. And it's done well. But now that I'm putting so much emphasis on how do we continue to improve this one thing every single week, I'm going to start doing that with our Power Player Mastermind as well. And I think the sky's the limit. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do a lot better with that. So I'm super excited to keep growing that too.
Cody, before we let you go, where can everyone find you?
Instagram is easy, cool place to follow and DM and see me posting stories. I tagged the Hustle Nation podcast when we first got on, at Cody.Askins. And then YouTube is our biggest platform, over 3,000 videos, over 120,000 subscribers. And that's at Cody Askins.
Cody, thank you so much for being here. It was a lot of fun. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Can't wait to have you back. For all the listeners out there, thanks for tuning in to another episode. We appreciate the ears. Until next time, peace.